All right, so you have stumbled across one of the best networks ever, and we just happen to be on it. I am Ashley Connor.
I'm Misty.
And I'm Pat.
I keep moving my hands wrong, but that's okay. We're going to get it together. We're going to keep this rolling. It's going to be amazing, just like this show is.
So why would we have a show together, guys? What do we do that's special? Hit it, Pat. What do you do that's special?
Well, one of the things that we do, all three of us do, we are Reiki masters, but we've been doing old-time mountain hands-on healing for a long, long time. And we're all three mediums. We're all three psychics. So we have a lot to offer, especially people that's interested in the strange, the unusual, and the macabre. Our show is for you.
You have stumbled across a bevy of information you probably didn't even know that you wanted, but you're going to need it, and then you're going to put it in your back pocket, and when you're going to think, this show did that for me. This show, and it's called Gussied Up Witchcraft. We're going to take
Magic.
Oh, that too.
You know, it's new. It's new.
It's new.
Oh, God.
It's magical and it's witchcraft.
We just show up for the show. The name is gonna precede itself. We just show up because you know what? We're just that type of person that's gonna go along. Some of these facts you might be able to contribute it to your everyday life, or it's just some stupid stuff you can say while you're drunk and you seem like you're a smart, intelligent person. They're gonna have to Google it, and then they're gonna tell you how right you are. So, how did we get on this pedestal of knowledge? How me and Misty started, and I started doing math the other day, and I'm not good at math, and I don't do math well. And I realized I've been in the paranormal field for 16 years. Is it 16? It's been 16 years, ever since I was, well, we're not going there, but ever since I was younger, because then you're going to realize how old I am. I have been in the paranormal, and just like the paranormal, it's always evolution, and it's moving through all these different subjects. I was back in the day when all we had was a piece of paper and a pencil trying to talk to ghosts. But anyways, things kind of moved on, and I stuffed and tickled my toes into spirituality. And Misty, why don't you tell them how the hell that happened?
Well, actually, I think anybody who's drawn into the paranormal, there's a reason. There's a light over there that you're really drawn to, whether it's just your personal or whether it's something in your soul that needs to be, explored. Because the more you get out there in the paranormal, the more you're like, wait a minute, these are happenings that I've had before. This explains things. So how it actually happened, that we have been forever on this farm. Okay. We grew up and we are still on the farm, and we do these eclectic little things that now we know as Appalachian Magic. Back then they were like, just do it. This is what we've been doing for years.
Weird.
Yeah. So when we went into the paranormal, we were just like, hey, these are normal happenings. And our grandfather passed. And when he did, all of a sudden, these investigations, you were searching for ghosts. Apparently, they were searching for us because we had that tie to the other side. So it became really strong. All the things that we had been going through, now it was like, we can't deny this. And then, of course, we went on the road. I got to get my hand gestures right with. Okay, I'm dyslexic, but Pat over here, we went.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah. We went on the road with Pat, and gosh, we've been on the road since, and just like a tree, sometimes the branch goes this way and that way, but the roots always come back to each other. So that's where we're at right now. And we've been on the road doing, all kinds of things.
To tell these things to people.
But we've been just, out there enjoying everybody and helping people in all different ways, from seances to cleansings to healings to readings. That's just a bevy of everything.
We'll talk. I'll do a lot for $1. I'll talk to you. I'll tell you how you messed up in your life. I will give you a spell. I'm quite convenient, and I take PayPal. Pat, where did you come from? How did you get into this long journey?
Well, before I get into the deep stuff, I have to tell you that I have sat here and watched something very supernatural happen. I have watched my granny bun move the center of my head to over here.
That's your thinking.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're getting an important message.
You're
getting an important message, Kat. Once
you're tuning in.
Tune right in.
Seriously though, those of you that don't know, I'm like them. I grew up. We was proud, and hillbilly, and from the time I was about 4.5, I was in Fairbanks, Alaska. My dad was at the local at the local base. He was in the Air Force. And I was sitting there, and of course, it was during the time of the year where there was really dusk all day long. There really wasn't, nighttime or day. It's that in between that you have in Alaska. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I'm 4.5, and I watch my mother's spirit float into the room, and then I watch it as it evened itself out on her body, and then just floated into her body. And I remember being really confused on this. And so about a year later, I was mad at my mom. And I told her, I said, well, Mom, I said, you're not my mommy anyway, because I saw my other mommy and you're not her. And I had to explain to her what had happened. And I was really lucky because both my mother and my grandmother who raised me, they understood all of this. They had a real interest in it. My granny, she read or worked with the spirit board, and my mom was a palmist. And so I grew up around this. I grew up around reading material when I was 10, 11 years old. I read The Black Arts by Richard Cavendish. I'll never forget because yeah, if you've ever read the book, you'll know what I mean. And if you've ever heard of The Hand of Glory, that now imagine you're 10 or 11 years old. This is your reading material. And I found out that if I went to the local graveyard and if there were any people who were actually, put to death there for murder or something like that, I could dig them up and I could cut off the hand, preferably the right hand, and then I could dip it in wax and then light the wax so that I had a candle. And because I would carry that candle through someone's house, it would grant me the gift of invisibility. So that was my reading material as a child. I also read things like Wonders of the World, and I never forgot that. I think I was about 13 or 14, maybe a little older, when the Chariots of the Gods came out, that book. And Granny was one of the, I mean, she was waiting on that book. She had read about it. I had seen an interview with him, Eric. I forget his last name right now, but the man who wrote the book, and she immediately got the book, and as soon as she finished with it, I read it. So that's how I grew up, and I just grew up. I like them, and they can tell you about their experience. I grew up in a radically haunted house, and so I was just completely open to this, and I didn't have someone telling me it's wrong, to keep my mouth shut, that if I said such things that I would be ostracized, that the family would be embarrassed. I mean, we were poor anyways. So we didn't worry about what society thought about us. We really didn't. That's the one good thing about not climbing the ladder, that sort of societal ladder, when you're in your youth, or being attached to a family whose goal is to reach the top of that ladder, because you basically have a better opportunity to be yourself. And I was. And so that's where I came from. And I like them. We can talk, and I'm gonna turn it up because I don't want to suck the air out of the room. But we'll tell you some of the things that have happened to us that have made us the people that we are today. And we know that we have a lot to offer to you in this program. We're going to bring you a wide range of wonderful topics. We're going to try to look at things from a different perspective than you might find on other shows. We're really excited about this. So we definitely want you to join us in our journey, and hope to see you in the next edition of this podcast.
Yeah.
Ladies?
And us growing up with any of the haunting type stuff, we always had logicality over spirituality and a lot, and I always preach that. And one thing is, we would go through some very odd things, and it would always be like, oh, that's weird. Anyway, so what are we having for dinner? So about like one time, like here recently, my mother randomly called me, and it was like me and Misty, and was like, hey, I just saw you walk across the deck. Are you okay? And she was like, I saw you come into the house. I'm not talking about just my mother. The whole family watched my body walk through the house, and I was in a completely different state. So there's always been weird stuff on this little farm that's happened. It's always just kind of been like, huh. And then they just go about their way. It's really, if you've ever been in a paranormal experience in yourself, then usually your mind tries to like make it more logical, and you're like, oh, it had to have been this, it had to have been that. And then when you can't prove that, that's when shit gets real, and you're like, wait a minute. So for some reason your mind just kind of shifts on, because who are you supposed to tell? Like now with technology and everything like that, it's kind of, you can fake everything. So if it's real, people aren't going to believe it's real anyways. What do you think some of your profound experiences would be on the farm with supernatural stuff?
My profound things on the farm, like some of my stuff is to do with, like here recently, I got the opportunity, and this is going to sound kind of morbid to some, but it's an honor to those that things pass over and you're able to help them or usher them. We mentioned that we are Reiki master teachers, you know, all three of us. But, you know, we had a baby calf. I'm going to give you this for example. And everybody knew the calf was not going to make it. The mom wasn't accepting it. There's certain signs. And I remember going up there and we were trying to bottle feed the baby and stuff like that. And I was holding it, right? And when I did, I had one hand on its heart. And a calf's heart is like through here. It's not, you know. And I was holding it. And when I would give it all I could of my healing energy, I felt its little heart pick up. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to do good. And as soon as I stopped, it went back and almost stopped. So then it was like jumper cables to it. And that's an opportunity that I don't think many people get to have. And it was an honor for me to, you know, hold that little being that I knew in my heart shouldn't be here at that time. And it did too. And to usher it across, but also feel how that healing took a part of it. Not everybody gets to have that experience. So I'm going to tell you, I've been doing cleansings, I've been doing healings, all kinds of stuff. But until you feel that, you don't know 100%. And that's the one thing, people don't get that experience unless you're that close to livestock, until you're that close to the earth. Some of the coolest things is mostly in these mountains. I have to say, we used to go walking because we owned like this large part all the way up a mountain, right? And we would go walking back in there, and there's something enchanted in there. And you could just feel it. And I would always get my mom to go. I would be like, Mom, you know, let's go. And Ashley was little then, and my mom was pretty young. And we would go back there, and we would go into certain parts, and it was the outline of this house. That's all it was. The house had, I mean, it was at the foot of the mountain. This is, I'm talking about so old. It was probably in like some of the wars and stuff. And all you had was the brick outline.
No roads, by the way.
No, you're
no
just,
ways to get to it.
How my mom knew where this was she was like, you go to those remains and then there's a waterfall behind. It was like that, like take a turn by the old road or by the old tree and stump and stuff. And I remember getting close to that house and the energy just shifted. And if you know what that's like, we are so conditioned in these mountains. People ask us questions, right? All the time, ladies, about, hey, you know, are we, do you whistle at night? What do you do in the woods? Well, you get the heck out of there. It's what the heck you do, because these energies are so old and you could feel it. And about that time we started hearing noises and clankings and stuff. And we're in the middle of the woods. There's no way these things could have happened. And I remember my mom turned us around. And by that time, my dad had kind of made it into the woods, like halfway to where we were, deep in the mountain. And my mom was like, I know you were playing, James. Da, 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 da. My dad was like, I just got here. Like, I couldn't have got in front of y'all. I haven't been here. And my mom, it was serious then, because then she realized, I remember we were all like, holy crap, get your stuff, get out of the woods. And
it reminds you a lot like Blair Witch when you go back
exactly
there. Like how they had certain things laid about. That was what it was. They used to go back there and party. Another thing is that any of the healing I've done, I don't do healing on people. I have more success rate on animals, like Misty was saying earlier, as in livestock. I came across goats, and I intuitively, some other voices came through and said, something's wrong with this. And I'm like, no, whatever. Take them to the vet because something was going wrong, and it was exactly right. Right. But it's just, it's different living in these mountains because like what we're bringing forward is animals, and we're scared of behind our mountain. Like there is no one that lives behind us, as in that it is all empty and things like that. I'm still scared of those woods, to be honest. I'm like, I ain't going back there. I'm like,
right. So that's a little clue for y'all too. Everybody says, do you whistle in the dark? Are you there in the dark? Listen, take it from people who grew up in these mountains. Take it from people who if we get lost in them, I have always told somebody I will find my way out. And they always say, no, you're not. And I said, you better give me some water. And whichever way it's running, I'm getting out of them mountains.
I'm trying not to be in the dark at night around here. Dark at night. I'm trying not to be in the woods in the dark. Okay. Yeah.
No, but I will find my way out. I'm not joking. I will look. I mean, I'm talking about I will use some old Native American stuff. Like I will tell you what time it is. I'm going to get out and it is going to come through and I will get out of there, because you just don't understand the energies that are in mountains when they're open and they're beautiful and they're accepting. There's nothing like it in the world. When they're not, there is nothing like it. Is like somebody has told you to get out and get out now. And if you don't move fast enough, it's going to catch up to you. You ever seen, what is it? Never Ending Story. It's the nothing that just rolls and gets them. That's what it feels like. It's like you get out of the way or it's going to come, you're going to get moved out of the way. So those are some of the things that I have grew up with. So I know very quickly when energy shifts, man, I could feel it. And I think that's helped me in my readings too, because when that energy shifts anywhere, I can feel it. One of the coolest things that ever happened is we had a whole group of witches, and this is the truth, cast against us. Woke me out of sleep. I could feel that energy come in. And I remember just texting all the people involved. And I was like, hey, we need to do something. They're like, oh, no, there's nothing. You're crazy, Misty. I'm like, listen, I feel it coming in. It was almost like a wave. And I'm going to tell you, found out later, they were trying to get about 100 people against us. So I was like, I can feel when the energy, like when we got to duck and tuck, I'm on it. But
that's Lord, I don't know if I need to hang out with y'all. 100 witches, that's a lot.
You're already in it.
I'm deep in it. Yeah, what Misty and Ashley are talking about, these mountains are old, and Misty says it often, and it's true, and that is these mountains are older than bones. Mm-hmm. I mean, they saw the rise of the dinosaurs and the demise of the dinosaurs and the rise of man, and now all of that energy resides in these mountains, and these mountains were at one time taller than the Swiss Alps, they think. So imagine that. But they're so old, and the years have just taken hold, and erosion has taken away the soil, minuscule, tiny little bit at a time, until we have now what we know as the Appalachian Mountains. Now, I live like them, way out in the boonies. I live up on a mountain somewhere in western North Carolina. And we love our country homes, don't we, girls?
Yeah.
But there's something scary. I would say scary, but you have a respect. You have a respect because it's there's elementals in these mountains, and some of them were brought when our ancestors came, our Scots, Irish, and German ancestors, which is what primarily, English, Welsh, Scotland. I mean, in that area was mine. I think it may be theirs too. But when they came over, they brought their elementals with them. They brought the fairies. They brought the trolls. They brought the elves. And it is a type of energy. There was already elemental energy here, but now we brought this, this energy that attached to us as we came to the new country. I had a friend, and she was an amazing person. She called herself a Christian witch, and she was very, very devout, but she was also magical and believed in magic. And one of the reasons she grew up on a dairy farm, and there was a beautiful creek that ran through that dairy farm. And she swore to me that when she was about 8 years old, she went down to the creek by herself. And she was hearing music, like an Irish flute. And she went down, and when she was there, she saw the Fae. She saw some of the Fae as they danced and they played around that creek. These mountains have magic. My old granny said, there's magic in the mountains, and there is. Which, by the way, is a segue into telling you that working on a documentary about Appalachian granny women, and we're going to have that available next fall, hopefully by Halloween. We'd like to get that released. But anyway, that's been a passion project. We're losing a lot of our old granny witch stories in the mountains, and so this is a way to be able to preserve some of those stories. But for me, some of the most, and and I'll give it back in just a second, but some of the most notable, if you will, things that have happened to me as I was growing up. Lord, like them, there's so many of them. But one of them was my mother. She was sent home from the hospital, and I told you we believe in laying on of hands. She was sent home from the hospital, and they told me that she had 3 months to live, that she could not go back to her own home, and that I had to make a place in my home for her, or they were going to put her in a home. Well, I had promised Mom a long time before I wouldn't put her in a home because, if I could at all not do it, because she helped me raise my babies. She gave up her job and retired early and came and helped me raise my 2 little ones. And so I was determined that she'd stay home with me. So I had to go straight home and prepare a place for her. And when she came, I asked her, I said, Mom, I said, can I lay my hands on you? And can I pray? And can I do a spell? And she said, well, you sure can, Pat. So I had some beautiful topaz, and I put them on points in the body that are known as the chakras. And then I gathered as much energy as I could to pull into this, intent of healing. And I always tell people, unless you have an experience like Misty described, you don't know for sure. But I can tell you that my mother was with me another 7 years before she passed. And I got to enjoy her company all of those years. But my existence was made up of a lot of different things. Like I said, we had a lot of things happen at the house. I mean, I was sitting in the living room once, and I saw water just rolling down the walls in another bedroom. My mother saw it. We jumped up. I mean, it looked like there was a water main in the wall that had burst. And we went running to the bedroom, and when we got there, it was dry as bone. So it was, we had so many little things that happened. But going back to what Misty and Ashley said about respecting the mountains, we love them too. When I was young, our idea of camping was a blanket and a pillow. And I remember waking up one day, and I felt something just real soft on my face. And I'm like, what in the world? And I opened my eyes, and I think the deer and I screamed at the same time because all I saw were these big eyes, just for a second in the semi twilight of dawn. And then it was scared and ran off. But I mean, bears, big cats. They say there's no big cats in the mountains. I'm telling you, I was in the mountains one time. We were in a truck, and I will never forget it. There was a mountain lion that came down out of that mountain, and it walked right in front of us, and its tail was sticking right over the top of the hood of the truck. So yes, ma'am, there's a lot to worry about out there, but there's a lot to love also.
All right, ladies, I got a topic for us because people don't get to see us on the road unless they come to see us, right? So let's bring a little bit to our listeners, okay? Pat, let's start off with you. What was the most interesting thing that's happened to you on the road as we travel, psychics, mediums on the road, out there hitting the pavement? What's the most unique thing that's happened to you?
There's okay. I'll tell you one story. But I'm telling you, this. You cannot make this stuff up. I mean, you would have to have an incredible writer's imagination, and it's not just one thing. I mean, we could go on, but I will go to one that was really interesting. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was doing the public readings, and I will never at one of the events. And I will never forget this. I had a beautiful. She belongs to the Eastern Band of the Cherokee, and she came for a reading. I read for her. She said, "I have someone that I want you to read for me." And I said, "All righty then." So she brought her younger brother and her other sister. So she wanted me to read for her younger brother. And suddenly it was like I'm an astral projector, so I go into time and places. And I'm standing I saw it from the outside, it was just an old rickety trailer, right? A small one. And all of a sudden I'm inside and I see two well-worn chairs in front of a TV. But I see an old man there and he's got braids. And I recognize him as also being, from the Eastern Band of Cherokee. They have the similar frequency. And he started speaking in Cherokee to me. And I don't speak Cherokee, obviously. And so I was like, I was hear what he meant, but his words were what he wanted to deliver in that language. And so I listened. I basically said, "You need to slow down. I'm terrible at languages." And so he went over it like 3 different times, and then I came back. And as soon as I did, because I have ADHD and no memory short term, I immediately gave the message. And I felt his presence right there on my right. And when I gave him the message, he started crying. This young man started crying. And I looked at her because this particular message, I wasn't getting, the one that I gave to him, I wasn't getting a message. It was like, it was something for him. And, sometimes it's just not revealed to you, right? And so I delivered that particular message. And I had no idea what it said. And I said, "Does this have meaning for him?" And she said, "Oh, yes." But I felt the grandfather's presence, and he was not done. And he said to him, he said, "Do not follow the path of your father. He was dishonorable. Do not dishonor yourself. Do not dishonor your people. Follow my path. Follow my path." And so I'm getting chills right now repeating this because it really was profound. So this young man really is in tears and rather distraught. And when he hears that message, his sister says that their grandfather was a shaman of the Eastern Band of Cherokee, but their father was an alcoholic who had abandoned his family, and he wasn't a good man. And she told me, now she didn't tell me that day. They actually left after that, and then she returned the next day to tell me this message, to thank me that this young man was going down a very bad path, the same path of their father, and that this had changed this young man's life, already. That he was talking about giving up the friends that he had, which were not good people. They were the same kind of people that their father had gotten involved with. He was talking about reconnecting with the old ways of his people, of his grandfather. He wanted to know about his people's spirituality and to connect with the great divine. And so that to me is very memorable. But like Misty and Ashley, there's so many moments on the road that are very special. And these moments are the reason that we continue to do what we do. We know, I'm going to tell you something, and I might take some flack from it. I don't care. There are a lot of very fake people out there that, and you know it, they do it. I don't know why they do it. Maybe they do it for the money. But I can tell you that you're not going to get rich if you do this the way it should be done, if you do it with a purity of heart, so to speak. But I can tell you too that it is a path for a lot of us. But for some people, it's clout, it's attention, it's give me $20 for a reading, give me $40. And there are actually some people that will put out a GoFundMe or something like that. And I'm traveling America and I'm living in a tent and I'm getting back to nature and I'm and I can't be bothered to work because most of us work and or if we don't work, we've got so many responsibilities at home that we have no time to do so. And yet we still make time for this because it's more than just work. It's more than just the money that we may make. It's the people we connect with and the difference that we make.
Yeah.
Ladies,
Ashley,
what about you?
Yep.
Mine, the significant point in my journey here, mine would have to be is when you develop your skills, then usually you'll have like a spiritual partner or something like that, someone that you have around you that helps you build and things like that, and you compare notes. This one time a cold case kind of came through and they were like, listen, where do you think he is right now? And I sat there and I wrote and I concentrated on it so much, and I had this one, like, I was like, there's this car. I see this car, and this is the color of the car. And in my mind, this song's going through, and it's just he needed to take a break for a second. He needed to take a break. And that was what mine came through as. The other people's were different. One, you come to find out, talking about someone that kind of, buffers their spirituality with, fakeness, is that they would actually Google the place before they showed up. And I used to be so envious. And I was like, because to me, I get more excited showing up knowing things.
What you're doing is the right way. You Google it. That's the psychic right out the window.
Well, I'll explain that after I do this. And I had all this stuff, and I beat myself up about it. Yeah. And of course, if it's a cold case, you're not going to hear the ending until there's an ending. And like you just sit there with that, kind of like a turd in a punch bowl. So I'm sitting here like beating myself up because I'm like, man, I ain't get shit what everybody else did. And then all of a sudden it comes out I was right and the faker wasn't. And I was like, well, damn, you could have Googled that. But anyways, so we had went to one location. And if you don't know anything about me, my natural hair color is red. So normally when you go somewhere and you're more spiritually inclined, people that is like you will try to talk to you. It's kind of like the bus station. And crazies, they won't come talk to me. And then redheaded people and like people just got a distant, like a different past or things like that. There's a lot, and you'll notice when people come sit down in front of you, they'll have a lot of personality traits, what you're going through at the time. So it's like your energy matches their energy. Anyways, I show up to this jail and I'm picking up on all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden, this old faker that Googled it said,
you know what?
I didn't know it at the time. That's why I take it so seriously.
I got to tell you something. Anytime we want to talk like stuff about a bad person on the show, we'll just call him the old faker. The old faker. Just add them all together.
I sat there and I was madder than hell because like there was some cool instances that I was really like, why didn't that ghost come talk to me? But anyways, this old faker came out the gate talking about
this old faker
a redheaded killer that was a truck driver and all this stuff. And I'm like, damn it, that's some cool stuff. Why didn't that guy come talk to me? Old Red or something. It was something wild, man. I was like, why ain't I getting this?
Do you remember the old faker? Now listen to this. The old faker, apparently this was really pertinent around there. But everybody at the jail just kind of glossed over it. We're just like, what? So she kept coming back around. But the red-haired killer again the next day. It was just because everybody was just like, yeah, man, whatever. Because it just didn't feel right.
Knew she's old too.
That she circled that around. But look at you. Yeah. You did good there.
I'm so mad about it
because you got the clicks. I was there for this one, so this was really cool.
Because that wasn't the cold case. But anyways. I just randomly was like, hey, there's clicks. So many clicks. And they were like, wait, you wouldn't believe it, but that's how they counted them coming out of the mines, is they would do clicks, and they realized there wasn't as many clicks. And that was out of jail. But then, like, this old faker just kept on talking about it, and I was mad. I was like, damn, I'm doing everything I can. I'm getting a headache. I'm trying to pull so much. And all of a sudden, she found this old man in the corner that said, you know what, you're right. That's the only one that bet on it, and I think it's because he wanted a special show. If you know what I'm saying.
You know what? We're gonna have to buy shirts that says
old faker.
The old faker. Yeah. The old faker did it. It's kind of like the cat. Like when you're a kid and every time somebody does something that something breaks, you'd be like, the cat did it. The cat did the old faker.
I'm telling you. There is a lot of significant times that I've really been able to stop people from committing suicide and going through a lot of hard things. I'll bust out a cheating ring in a hot second. Misty's even worse about it.
I am.
Christmas once. She told somebody He's about half in his body, half ain't. He's gonna die soon. You better be nice to him.
I don't.
That's my job, girls.
Yeah, no, Pat, you would have been. I mean, I shit the bed at Christmas, y'all. I mean, she didn't come back.
I didn't like her anyways.
No, but what got me mad is I was trying to tell her, I was like, let my dad and the brothers around him. He's already half on the other side. He's not all the way here, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I truly believe my grandma was saying it because she was very straight to the point. My grandma my husband was like, I mean, he was scared of her. She was a small woman, but a mouth and a tongue that was sharp as heck. You know how they are in the mountains. They don't pull no punches. They just say what they mean.
One time me and Misty walked in the room, she said, oh, Lord, I got to get off the phone. One of these came in here with the wig, and the other one's fat or something. I don't remember. I'm like,
she said she was direct. So I knew when she was talking, it was direct. You let this happen, da, da, da. And the girl looked at me. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, my husband's half on the other side, I got to prepare. You know what I'm saying? Like she said, is your grandma approve of me?
Hell no,
and
she
I was
don't like you.
And
I don't like you. I
man,
didn't like her.
The first thing I said was, honey, this ain't about you. It's about him. And guess what I also picked up in there is that she was a cheater. And I'm going to tell you something. My dad come back after all this. Now I'm telling stories about our family here, which is horrible. Come back about all this. And he said, I think she might have been doing something with the neighbor. I said, I know she was, damn it. But how are you supposed to say that? That was Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas. If anybody wants to come to our house.
I want to ask you about your instance, but I got to get this out. I have an issue with, I don't see disabilities or speech impediments, and I don't see that in the person. I see what they want to show me, and I won't recognize it till later. And I'm like, when the hell did this guy I'm dating get a list? But I'm like half a year in. Anyways, I have that issue. But another talent that I have is I'll look at someone, and everybody else will see a certain figure, but I will see something else. And this one significantly, I was like, I don't like her. She's got a thick tongue and she's a pizza licker and she lies. I said her tongue's weighed down with all them lies. And that was the truth. She lied like crazy. And then I've looked at certain people and I'm like, y'all don't see it has that person has a hunchback and that person is very dark and ugly and things like that. And it'll look like a little troll from like Harry Potter. And I'll look at his picture and I'm like, that is not him at all. What I see him as. So it's very interesting. I can see energy like that. But Misty, what is a significant time besides when you ruin Christmas?
Okay, so gosh, we got so many topics we're going to talk about on this show. This is just a tip of what we could tell y'all, but we could have shows on people who fake, how to pick a good reader, one that will vibe with you, some things to look out for, but also starting off, guys, I got to tell you something. When you start off, make sure that you want to give the gift of the sight to everybody. You want to tell everybody what you're seeing and stuff. Honey, there is, and this is the truth, and I've had to learn it because I wanted to tell everybody's business to everybody, right? Because you're getting the messages, right? And I had to learn to keep my mouth shut because I can't. I've told people straight numerous times. One of the craziest things that happened to us is me and Ashley had a radio show before, and this is really, really crazy. Okay, by the way, and this man who ran it, he had a network and stuff like that. And he was talking to us and stuff. And I said, he was talking about his girlfriend. And I kept saying, well, I bring your girlfriend around, when we do events and stuff like that. And he brought this one girl. I said, that's your girlfriend. He said, no, that is not my girlfriend. I said, no, that's your girlfriend. And he kept telling me, no, I have a girlfriend. I said, that girl is your girlfriend. And I was very persistent. So all of a sudden I get a message, okay? And this girl goes, can I talk to you? It's the girl that got brought in, right? She said, can I talk to you privately? And I really didn't know her that well. And she said, listen, you're going to have to stop addressing me as his girlfriend because he owns me. And I said, huh? And it was a whole ring. He had a girlfriend, but they were in a submissive, like she was his slave. He was her dominant. The girlfriend didn't know anything about it. And I just kept on over and over saying, that one right there, that one's yours, that one's yours. So much that he got so freaked out that he tried to stay away from me. And we had a show and it was very awkward. And I just kept saying, where's the girl? Where's your girl? And she had to call me and be like, listen, he's really freaking out because I'm his slave. He owns me. His girlfriend doesn't know. So you got to stop. And I was like, Oh Lord, I done busted that whole thing up. And it was very awkward after that. He didn't want to talk to me anymore. So that's one of the things. Some of the tips we could give you in the beginning is kind of like how to,
But good for y'all for having that organization.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've accidentally got into an RV with somebody that was trying to. It was a surprise interview, and I had to decline. I didn't realize I was up for that interview, and I was very appreciative, but I didn't want the job. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've been part. They're quite frequent, and good for y'all for having an organization. I mean, I'm too sloppy and sad. I just can't be in a whole organization.
I don't know how they do it, but
beautiful.
I tell you what,
it's really beautiful.
We'll sniff it out. Okay, don't bring it around us. We'll sniff it out, and then we'll just make it uncomfortable.
That's not true. We've been to parties.
Yeah,
we've been to parties.
I've had to learn that as I went along. So tips for y'all as trying to develop. We'll share as many as we can with you.
I'm not as free love as I seem.
You want to say something, Pat?
I do. I just wanted to wrap up this whole faker, part.
Oh, I believe Faker's going to have a whole seat on this show.
Well, honest to goodness, we've been in this for a very long time, and we have seen all kinds. And you will know almost to the second that you look at someone whether they have a gift or not. The first time I ever saw these two right here, I told them, I said, "You guys are gifted. You have no idea how gifted you are." And they have, they are just amazing. So if you ever have an opportunity to read with one of them, I recommend that highly. I do want to mention something too, and I love this. Okay. All right. We're signed up with the University of Virginia's, they have a Department of Perceptual Studies, and every once in a while they do a mediumship study. And so we're actually signed up with that. Yes, we feel very confident in our skills because it's a gift. We know we have this gift, and we do not malign it, and we don't abuse it. But there was a TV show in England, and they were testing mediums, and they actually put around the place that they were at, a haunted location, they put like the owner's picture and then the bio of the owner. Yes. And almost to a T, everyone that they had in there used that as a basis. And when they nailed them with it, right? When they nailed them with it, one of the women said, "Well, yeah, I did." At least the rest of them are going, "Oh, I never read it." It was fake bio. The entire thing was fake. And so it was like breadcrumbs that they put through this building, and they fell for it. We don't do that. I do not want to hear anything. When we read. And in fact, if you start telling us a lot of stuff, it gets in the way of us being able to connect with energy, because now our human mind gets all into it, right? You can't help it. It's like pieces of a puzzle. So if you do decide, and we'll let this go on this, but if you do decide to get a reader, that is one tip we'll give you for free now, and that is don't give them a lot of information. Yes, ma'am.
Right. I actually get pissed off if I go somewhere and it's a cliche idea of what it is. I've actually went to this one school and I was like, "Oh God, yeah, I got it. There's probably a janitor that passed away." And I was like, "Yeah, I got that." And everybody was going crazy. And they're like, "You wouldn't believe he had so much scandal." But I get pissed off when I go to a location and I read and it's like, "There's a lady in white. There's this. It irritates me.
Man in gray.
Because I want odd stuff. So,
and that's the cool thing. Like, there's a thin line, and we were talking about this when we were coming home from our events this weekend. We did like a little live, and somebody was talking to us about how they had went to a pet reader, and it was some of the bad things that had happened to them. And I said, "You don't understand a psychic." So we talk about this on the road. So I'm going to throw this out there to you, and then we'll probably take a break. But the best of the best psychics are only 75%. What is it? 70 to 80%.
80.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
correct. Think of that. I'm talking about the best of the best in history now, whatever, because a psychic has to walk the line of, is this a message or is this my interpretation? And when she pushes so hard or you give her so much information, what's happening is it's muddying the waters, so that as she's trying to reach into that true divine gift of that psychic mediumship or whatever she's doing for you, if it gets muddied, right? Then she'll put her perception on it. The Stargate program, we were talking about that in the military. They are training people now to take the feelings out of it, their perception out of it. And what that does is they say that they could be stronger than a regular psychic. But I'm going to tell you something. Just because you can get coordinates or something, it doesn't take the heart out of the message of a regular psychic, in my opinion. So that's some of the stuff you're going to learn on here too, which is really cool. We're a bevy of information, and we can help y'all navigate. Plus, we're going to be, I mean, there's going to be so much cool stuff and like entertainment and, you know, just some stuff to make you not feel alone in this journey of magic.
And one more thing before we end this session, because I think it's important. And by the way, that was beautiful, Misty. It really was. I hate to go, but that was a good ending, but I got to say just one thing. All right. Dr. Hansholzer was and is considered the godfather of parapsychology. And of course, that's argued. But one of the things that he did is he would always use a trance medium. He would use a trance medium. He would take a recorder, you know, audio recorder, and he would take a camera. But he never told the medium where he was going. And he often worked with a witch who was a psychic called Sybil Lee. So he wouldn't tell them where they were going. So yes, I think our faker would be in trouble there. And
I'm going to tell you, you're going to learn so much about a faker, but there is not one faker that we're talking about. It's all the things added together. So, you know, the old faker is going to show up many times. So let's take a break, ladies.
Ladies, you know, everyone who practices, I told you that my friend Marty was what she called a Christian witch. We're all different. I call myself an energy witch. What do you all do and how do you practice?
Hit it, Ashley.
Me, I'm more focused on animals and things like that. I do enjoy glamour magic, and I like putting it back at people when they do mean things. I like it's inconveniences. It's not necessarily terrible. I don't want to ruin their life. I just want them. I like mean things. But anyways, so I enjoy like animal healing is more of something I do specialize. That's in the positive side. I like to look pretty and I like to ruin people's lives that are horrible.
Ashley,
we're going to go back. It's not that terrible. I'm just saying if, like, you know, I just believe in reflections of their selves.
I got to tell you something. Pat's over here giving messages and crossing people, not crossing people, but ushering over, you know, to the other side. I'm over here.
Oh, she's meaner than hell in person. I'm just being mean.
And I'm holding baby cats, and you're like, I want to be pretty and mean.
I'm like the honey boo boo.
I want you to know that I was about to say, Ashley, you are channeling Marilyn Monroe tonight. I swear, in that light, you look so much like her, but I'm taking it back.
Well, I can't see a damn thing. I appreciate it. See that? She's doing that just for the scare fest.
No,
like,
I don't really tell her that.
I'm being mean.
And she's right, I am mean, but I'm also loving and good.
She is. But we all do believe, like, that is one subject. We all believe that if somebody does something, we should be able to protect ourselves and put that back. What do you do?
I'm going to tell you, when you start off on this journey, you're going to think you're this. And then you're going to end up this. And that's how it goes. When I first started off, I really didn't know. I just knew that I didn't like the traditional fundamental structure of a church. I will be very honest. I grew up in a Pentecostal church. I was going with my cousins. I've had hands laid on me, which, by the way, I just want to throw this out there for any Pentecostals that are listening. If you've stumbled across this, the same thing that I still anoint things and do the same things when I do my cleansings. It's just a different name and a different, that's pretty much it. It's funneling the divine energy in and taking things off that are not meant to be. But if y'all could have seen little Misty in them churches and how many people wanted to lay hands.
She looked mean and 35 at 8.
I did. It looked like I was selling real estate.
We think it was because her shoes were so small. She was so mean and angry.
But so I knew that wasn't. I had PTSD. I'll be very honest, and a lot of people from these mountains do. The church is a big fundamental thing when you're in the Bible Belt, and if you don't fit in, and I literally would go into churches and I would have panic attacks and start crying. That's how messed up that was, because I was taught that a woman had a place and what she was supposed to do. Plus, these mountains put a woman directly in their place. If you understand, I've seen the ladies in our families carry the plates to the men while they set. You see what I'm saying? That's just that, and there's a beauty in it. I am not saying anything about that. I think that I've watched that and I thought that's a beautiful thing. A man provides for his home. He's hardworking. And then the woman, she provides the love that she gives. Now, on the other end of a church setting, I have a lot of PTSD. I will never forget, this house we live in now was my grandparents. And of course, every time we got out of line, they would say, y'all need to go to church. So there's a church directly across, right? And still is. And I will never forget, we walked in the church and somehow Misty, a teenage Misty, found the back door in the basement and ran right down across my grandma's. Yes, I did. I left you there. You were little. I left her in church. And my grandma said, well,
I love church. They just gave me colors. I just kept on coloring.
No, I had so much PTSD. And my grandma said, well, Misty, I seen you come running down there from church. I was like, she's like, come on in. So when I found this, holy moly, I still believe the same things. I think there's a bigger energy. I think if you want to call it God, divine, some people call it spirit, some people call it universe. But the thing of it is when I stepped into this and I realized there's no manipulation, there is no structure of man that can corrupt this. And I can talk directly to the greater good, the greater energy. Whoa, was that empowering? Was that, and I didn't care what it was called. At that time, I thought I was eclectic. Now, I do, because I learned the Bible, because the Bible was used on me a little bit differently. It was that I was a sinner and I was going to have to make my way to God. God didn't give love to me. So I tried very hard to understand the Bible. So I will come out with some stuff. Most of us witches actually in the South probably know the Bible better than Christian people. It's not a comparison, but we do, because we grew up with that. And we were trying to figure out what was wrong with us. Like, why didn't we fit in? So we would search and we would read. So I feel very much at home with the Bible. I still, when I do my prayers and I do my spells, I include God. I include God in everything that He gave us, such as spirits, angels, all of that. So it's kind of crazy. I sit here with the name of the witch just because I don't like the organization of the church system. But that's what I am.
Yeah. Our personalities have something to do with it, because I'm telling you, I was down there coloring Noah's Ark, and they just kept on telling me how the dinosaurs didn't make it on the boat.
No, I
was just like, oh, that now go
mine was.
That's the only thing I remember, and I was like, thank goodness Bible school's coming. We're all going to do crafts. No, that's what it was for me. No. I didn't listen to anything. That I was a sinner and that I was damned to hell. I would wake up in the middle of the night. I peed the bed until I was 13. I'll let all y'all know. There's a couple reasons. One, because I had night terrors, which now I find out is astral projecting and going to other areas and stuff. Still happens to me. But another thing is I used to wake up in the middle of the night fearing the devil, and I could not stop. I would have panic attacks throughout the night because I knew that's where I was going. I had to work my way back. Mine was a different time frame, but Jesus just loves you. And I'm like, hey,
Jesus didn't love Misty.
It's terrible.
Didn't love Misty.
It's just the age difference in there, that I grew up like that and you grew up like that.
Oh, no, it was rough. What about you, Pat?
Well,
what kind of magic you have?
I'm what they call an energy witch. And like Misty and Ashley, I believe in divine source. I believe that we can connect with that divine source, individually. And back in the day, they would call us a heretic and burn us at the stake, like they did Joan of Arc,
Mhm.
because
Yep.
speaking to God directly was absolutely forgotten. It was said that only a member of the priesthood, aka male in uniform, so to speak, in the priest regalia, were allowed to speak directly to God, and that God would speak to them. Outside of the prophets in the olden days, that's if you had a personal relationship with God, if you could hear God's word, as Joan of Arc was said to do, then that meant that you were receiving messages from, a demon or the devil. I mean, interchangeably. But I will tell you that I have an angelic source, an angelic being that I connect with when I do my readings. And how do we know it's angelic and it's not demonic? Well, it's simple. You will know them by their works. And that's what you do. When you see over the course of decades that you are healing people, connecting with people, lifting people up, let me tell you, negative energy can hide itself for a short period of time, and a short period of time only before the mask begins to slip.
All right, guys. So we're going to close this segment out, and we're going to close the show out with talking about some current events that are happening in the witch community. One of my ideas for this, and I hope that y'all ladies will enjoy this, is either we're going to leave you with something that is going to be uplifting, maybe some spiritual advice or something, or some current events, something that you can sit with and really think about and think how it impacts your life. So me and Ashley hail from the state of Virginia. Pat has lived here many, many years. She is now in North Carolina, but it is a neighboring state. So as I was slipping through social media, as we do in our downtime, I saw this video, and this was just the other day. I think it was July 30th or something like that. So it's very recent. There is a senator in Virginia who he is really pushing, because he says that Virginia is a Christian state, and that some of the things have been taken out that was Christian before, and witchcraft has been put in the way. And he doesn't want what happens to Virginia to happen like it did to California. And he's really platforming on this. And it really blew my mind that we are in the age of 2024, and there is still people who are trying to platform on the badness of all witches, and that they are the worst thing in the world. And the crazy thing is if you go back before Christianity, there was healers, there was intuitive people, and even after, and all the hollers that are up here, that's where you get the granny women. These people keep communities together. And some of the greatest people I know are witches, not because we're witches, but just how much they give. So
what happened in California?
I don't know. I guess
God, man, I was really that whole time. I was like, what happened in California, man?
The witches took over.
I
Apparently
always wanted to go to California. I mean, you got Malibu Barbie and everything. Oh, that's Malibu.
Well,
that's different, but still.
He even dropped the name of Roanoke. He said, and this is funny. This is what really, and Pat, we gotta get your.
What I really think.
We gotta get your opinion on this too. But I just want to drop this story, and then we'll pass it off. I'll pass it off to y'all ladies. So me and Ashley were booked for a gig. And we do not do things in a Roanoke.
That might be our one listener.
Might be.
Don't say it. I was gonna talk. I don't say I'm from Roanoke. I say I'm from Salem, the one that does meth, and then I keep it rolling. Because if they knew where that was, they wouldn't think I was very magical.
No, well, that is the deal. We're in Roanoke County, Montgomery County, okay, New River Valley. We're going to throw that out there. But our mailing address is Salem, but we don't live in Salem. We tell people that all the time. Right beside Salem is Roanoke. So this congressman said Roanoke is a Christian city. And I'm going to tell y'all something. We were booked for a gig there one time. We thought, let's try this area. It's never felt like it's our area, even though it's a lovely place. We're just not from town, y'all. We are from the country. That's why we stay near River Valley.
Getting too close to us anyways.
So it is. So we ended up going there. So they knew these are the witches that are coming. We're supposed to be giving readings. It was at a local, little bar and stuff. And all of a sudden, This little feller comes in.
He had the highest shoes on I've ever seen in my whole entire life. So you know he had a Napoleon complex that he had those heels. I have never worn platforms that high in my life.
So this little feller come in with a little entourage that came behind him. He looked at us and was like, and he went over and he sat at the bar with all his little entourage, and we were like,
he stood in front of me.
He did. He sized us up like there was no tomorrow. And if you don't think there is witch wars, y'all are crazy, because I've came across numerous, and I think Pat has too, and Ashley has too. And I was just like, what's up this guy's butt, man? And the girl who was putting it on said, oh, that is the high priest of the coven around here. So if y'all don't believe that Roanoke is ran by metaphysical things and witches and stuff, y'all are really, really mistaken.
We ain't even gonna be able to go to farmers market anymore.
We're not. They're gonna throw the fruit at us. They're like, get out of here. Y'all talking bad about this. But don't get me wrong. It's a
pomp and circumstance is what he was. I'm like, good man.
I probably love him now. I probably don't even know. He's probably my best friend somewhere. And be like, but that was you, buddy? No.
He was mad. He just stomping mad.
He was. So when people say that there's not what I'm not going to say we run, but there is a lot, even the bigger cities such as Bristol.
Oh, God, that one that was married to the football person. Who was that?
Oh, that's not in Virginia. That's not.
No, that's not Virginia, but she's a higher up. It was Giselle Bundchen.
Yeah, something
like
that. She
supposedly did witchcraft.
Well, she did manifestation for him, which is, So what do you think about this, Pat?
Well, I think that, witches have always been in the line of fire. And it's really interesting because we've taken the mantle on, even though really we're we believe in, God. I read the Bible. But I also believe in magic. I believe in a one-on-one relationship with God. That's as real. I used to sit as a child, and I would wonder, when I was going to be struck by the God energy, because I would sit there in a pew, and then I would look at the preacher. Unfortunately, I have the same gift that Ashley does. No, you've got it too, Misty, and that's being able to see the soul. Mm-hmm. And so I would sit and I would see the soul of the person. I'll give you an example. The last time I was sitting in a pew. Now, you have to understand, Southern Baptist raised, all right? At least partly, because my mother was a wanderer as far as, she was on a journey for spirituality. So I actually went to many churches, including the Catholic Church for years. We never went through catechism, but I listened to a priest called Father Dodge, and he was a very holy man. You could see the white light around him. He had the connection. But the last one, I thought, okay, I need to get my children baptized. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there looking at this preacher, and I see him. I see his soul. And I'm like, oh, man, but I'm hanging in because I'm going to get those kids dunked. And so we got the kids baptized. I did. And then I never went back. 3 months later, it's always in threes with me. 3 months later, he was found out to be having an affair with the musician, the organ player, who happened to be a young man. I don't even know if he was quite of age yet. So it was a huge hullabaloo, you can imagine, and the gossip flying. And, the last I heard, the little church was closed. I don't know if it still is, but it certainly was for a time, I'm sure, until they could get another preacher in. But it makes it difficult. When you have certain gifts, you all know this, it makes it difficult, doesn't it? Because you see people's true self. I'll give you another example. I worked with someone that was a psychopath once. And psychopaths rise very quickly, because they will do anything, lie, and they have no fear. No fear. Think about it. If most of us lie, we have a fear of getting caught, but there was no fear there. So she comes prancing into my office, and she says, I will never forget this. Everybody thinks I'm so sweet. I swear she did that. And I looked at her, I said, I don't. And it was the worst thing I could have said, because everyone knows that if you out a psychopath, they will come for you in any way that they can. Unfortunately for them, I had at the time about 29 years on the job and excellent reviews. So there wasn't much they could do because it was a state job. But she came for me in a very big way. So yeah, having these gifts, how can you deny them, right? When they're a part of who you are. And so by accepting that and accepting the moniker of witch, that's something that women in the past, certainly 1692 and before, they did not want to hear that word in connection with their name, because it meant that you were ostracized, at the very least that you were told you were banished, leave. Now think about it. Even as late as 1692, if you were banished, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
And how are you going to get there? So you're walking along where? Through the woods, through old road that may be washed out. I mean, being a part of the community meant you survive.
Yeah.
And so this was a very big deal. And so being called a witch was the worst thing. So women would eat their own gifts. They wouldn't, for instance, prophesy for an individual or a community. They would keep that to themselves. If they had any other gifts, they would keep that, because to allow people to know that you were different meant that you would be ostracized and you could be banished. You could be hung in America, and you could be burnt if you were overseas. This is a very, very serious thing. And I think in part, that's one of the reasons I accept that mantle. I am different. I've always been different. I've always felt different. I've always felt like I don't belong, and to the general community. And so this is something that we can do now, and that's why we do it. But yeah, people hate the word. And it's not just about the gifts that the priesthood was jealous of, because I don't know how else you could talk about someone like Joan of Arc and how the priesthood went after her, right, as being a heretic, without saying that because you have gifts, it does make you different. It does make you the object of envy of some people, especially people in power. And so we still have that. We have Greg Locke right down the road in Tennessee. From me and from them, that's a very close, as far as physical space. And it's scary because, I mean, I'm hoping that we have a clip of this, but you can see the vehemence and the anger, and it's really, really misplaced. Witches, Appalachian witches in particular, because I know them, we're healers. That's what we do. That's what our grannies did. That's why they call us granny women or granny witches.
And you want to know what's really crazy about the Greg Locke, if we touch on that for a minute. It was about a year ago, and Greg Locke started this. Your puppy. Ours was just knocking at the door, man. So many years ago, he started maybe a couple years ago, and it really blew my mind because it was so close to the place that we were doing a lot of events at. So I remember being down there maybe a year ago near Halloween time, and there was on the TikToks, guys, the great TikToks, there was a preacher, another one, that was driving around live trying to look for witches, or where he thought witches were. And it was ridiculous. And y'all do know that one of the oldest witches, the Witch of Pongo, which is near Virginia Beach, is like, I don't know if she predates Salem. Did she predate Salem? Or around that time? We've had some of our oldest witches here. And the community took care of her. They locked her up, and they didn't know whether it was her rich. 7 years, guys, in a building with no food. And when they opened it, they thought they would find her bones. And what did they find? A lady ready to get out. So they didn't know whether the community, because she was known as a healer, gave her food to keep her alive, or whether she was actually able to do it for herself. But she was an old farm girl.
There's a statue that's still there.
Yeah, because they wanted to take her land. So I don't believe that he is doing pomp and circumstance. He's trying to puff himself up. But what he doesn't know, that a lot of these communities relied on these women and some men, to take care of them, So I don't know. We're going to leave that out there for y'all to ponder and think. And we just thank you for joining in on this first episode. There will be many more. We want to dive into all kinds of things. If you have suggestions, questions, anything like that, please let us know. Please get in touch with us on our social medias or through the wonderful Wes and Scarefest Radio. We would love to address those topics.
Bye.